the hell are you doing here? I mean, last time I was single and I was living on the Lower East Side. I have a family now, kids. I mean, this is so embarrassing.
As breakup albums go, Lily Allen's new record, West End Girl, is one for the history books.
This house was designed for 3 women in my life who I love dearly.
It's a real-time account of how her 4-year marriage to actor David Harbour fell apart amid accusations of cheating.
Welcome to the bedroom, AD.
Actually, if you just tell everyone everything there is to know, and then they can't come after you.
We have this double-sided sofa, which means David and I can argue and...
But I don't want to be worshipped. I want to be loved.
Kids do the homework round there, I cook, everyone abandons me.
Last month, Lily Allen released an album that caused quite a splash about the breakdown of her marriage to actor David Harbour. She did not hold back and wrote in very detailed terms about how he opened their marriage via phone call when she was in London, the rules they set in place, only sex workers and never at their home, and how he allegedly broke those rules. As she sings in the song, Madeline, how long has it been going on? Is it just sex or is there emotion? He told me it would stay in hotel rooms, never be out in the open. Why would I trust anything that comes out of his mouth? Why would I trust anything that comes out of his mouth? We had an arrangement. Be discreet and don't be blatant. There had to be payment. It had to be with strangers. But you're not a stranger, Madeline. With rules like that, one can hardly believe their marriage failed. Quick tip, if your husband calls you when you're on the other side of the world to ask if he can sleep with other people and pinky promises it will only be with sex workers, as if that makes it better, divorce. It's also worth saying that according to every rumour ever and people who work in the industry, this arrangement is not uncommon with celebrities. My dad has a friend who, because of his job, comes across a lot of these people, and he told him about a very famous American actor with a squeaky clean family image. I'm not going to say who, but every time he's in London filming, he has high-end prostitutes going in and out of his place every night. Who knew? Image-obsessed people behave totally differently in private and treat those around them, including their families and partner, as disposable. Another reason we should stop idolising celebrities and, believing the cultivated image they put out. It's why PR and branding is so powerful. So yeah, I think that kind of arrangement among celebrities is really not uncommon. But unfortunately for David, the other badly behaving celebrities aren't married to Lily Allen, who notoriously not only uses her life experience in her songs, but does it in excruciating detail, leaving little down to metaphor or interpretation. Which brings us to her latest album, West End Girl. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Galatea, and this is Acis, My Dearly Departed. And today we're going to be talking about Lily Allen's divorce album, the mess that is so many celebrity relationships, and what it's like being married to a man with a Madonna whore complex. This album has had so many people in a chokehold, and I have to admit that I've also been fascinated. Now, I can't say I'm overly keen on the music itself. And to clarify, I like Lily Allen's music. I grew up listening to her old albums, and I'm a big fan of those. I still like them. I still listen to them occasionally. But this latest one, musically, it just doesn't hit quite the same for me. Having said that, listening to a few of them again and again in preparation for this video, some of them have grown on me more. But yeah, I don't think, it doesn't for me hit quite the same musically, but the story that it tells is fascinating. I mean, part of the reason why I think this album is so interesting is because it's such a look behind the curtain at the picture-perfect world of celebrity, where everything is so cultivated yet so shallow, where the image matters more than the reality. However, not only are their personal lives often no better than everyone else's, but they're often worse and more messed up, behind the Instagram perfect, magazine perfect image of perfection. So Lily Allen does say that this album is partly fictional and partly based on her real life, but I don't know if there's a huge amount of fiction from the details that we do know about her. So in the song Dallas Major, which I think is one of my favourites, musically, actually, on the album, she sings, "My name is Dallas Major and I'm coming out to play, looking for someone to have fun with while my husband works away. I'm almost nearly 40, I'm just shy of 5'2". I'm a mum to teenage children. Does that sound like fun to you? Because I hate it here. I hate it here. So I go by Dallas Major, but that's not really my name. You know, I used to be quite famous. That was way back in the day. Yes, I'm here for validation, and I probably should explain how my marriage has been opened since my husband went astray. And I hate it here. I hate it here. The song does also end with, at the end of the song, I thought they got married in Vegas. Just as an FYI, her and David Harbour got married in Vegas, so she's not exactly veiling it in a whole lot of fiction from the sounds of things. And from that, you know, that song about her, there's a lot of elements in there that very directly reference things we know about Lily Allen to be true. Now to begin, Lily Allen is not perfect. I've heard she's also behaved pretty badly in and out of relationships and past relationships. There's a lot of stuff she's done and I've heard her say that I'm really not keen on. But having said that, I wouldn't wish this kind of relationship on anyone. It sounds really painful. So the first song, West End Girl, which is also the title of the album, begins with the happily ever after. A fresh start, a brownstone, a fairy tale life, whisked away to America, all of that. But cracks appear already in the song, kind of pushing, you get the sense that the husband she's married, there's pushing more wealth and status and gifts on her. She says she feels a bit awkward about it. She's singing about then him seeming to tear her down, maybe slightly in little ways, questioning her abilities perhaps. And at the end of the song, it ends with the phone call asking for an open relationship. You only hear her end of the conversation. And then after West End Girl, the song immediately afterwards is her spiralling into a world of hurt and sleepless nights, while allowing those boundaries that she didn't want to be crossed to desperately try and keep her husband happy and with her. Because as she says in the phone call, at the end of the phone call, that she doesn't really want this. She's not up for this. She doesn't want to open their marriage to other people, but she says she wants to make them happy. She says, I just want you to be happy, and so that's kind of the setup. So for various reasons, obviously because both people involved in this very messy divorce are famous, and because the album is not vague, it's not metaphors, there's so much detail and specificity in this album, it's no wonder that it's blown up as it has and become so, it's such a, there's no other word for it, juicy story. It's scandalous, the whole thing, basically, and with two famous people involved, obviously people are going to be interested. I think as well there's, a level of, feeling sorry for her that people are really resonating with and jumping on, because it just sounds so awful, going through that. So there's all of that, but an angle that I've not really seen being discussed is what interested me the most about this album, and what I instantly noticed and was drawn to when I listened to it. And it's probably because I've talked about this phenomenon before and I just find it all really interesting, and it's related to, I suppose, gender dynamics, relationship issues, even touching on some of the stuff with, the red pill side of things. And I suppose because I'm interested in that, it kind of feeds into that. And that is the Madonna whore complex. I think that's all over this album. So that's what I want to talk about and what drew me to it. So the Madonna, just to clarify, because I feel like a worrying number of people don't know this, the Madonna does not refer to the singer, but the Virgin Mary. As in, Madonna in this context, when talking about the Madonna whore complex, Madonna meaning a woman who is the epitome of both motherhood and purity. A maternal virgin, the holiest, most saintly of women. That's the Madonna, what she represents in this context. And whore is obviously the opposite of that. I'm going to quote Wikipedia, just because their definition is quite simple and good and easy to understand, so, there we go. A Madonna whore complex, also called a Madonna mistress complex, is a psychological phenomenon first observed in psychoanalysis and later applied to feminist critique of broader society. In psychoanalysis, the complex is defined as an inability to maintain sexual arousal within a committed and loving relationship. First identified by Sigmund Freud, who called it psychic impotence, it is a psychological complex that is said to develop in men who see women as either saintly Madonnas or debased whores. Men with this complex desire a sexual partner who has been degraded, whore, while they cannot desire their respected partner, Madonna. Freud wrote, quote, "Where such men love, they have no desire, and where they desire, they cannot love." Clinical psychologist Hartman wrote in 2009 that the complex is still highly prevalent in today's patients. Basically, it means a kind of thing where men have to split women into two categories, Madonna, whore, and there can't really be any crossover. So Madonnas are kind, maternal, sweet, gentle, pure, loving women. They're the kind of women you love and you idolise a little bit and you're wow, she's so pure and wonderful. But you can't desire her. And then there's the whores who you hate and you're disgusted by and you're those tramps. but you want them. But you hate them, but you want them. And you hate that you want them. Rather than women being like complex creatures, like most sweet, innocent, lovely women also probably have sexual desires. But in this, it's like, no, they can't. There's like a definite split there. So like one of the main theories is that this comes from men who have complex or difficult relationships with their mothers or women, you know? It's kind of like they see sex a little bit as shameful and dirty. So a woman that they love or respect and get close to, they can't do that with her because that's shameful and dirty and she's like above that. So they outsource it to who they hate. It's yeah. And interestingly, I've seen this attitude crop up in, and I want to be careful here because I don't want to tar like the whole manosphere with the same brush. I don't think that's fair. And I've specified as well, like, I call it like the sleazy manosphere to differentiate, because there's some stuff in the manosphere that is good and good advice and, you know, that aren't, I don't want to say that everyone's like that. But there is some stuff I've heard in, like, I guess the sleazy manosphere where you see men kind of, it's interesting, you kind of see that split a little bit, where the women that they want, they also hate for being whores, and the women they idolise and respect, they claim won't sexually satisfy them, so that they need more 304s on the side. Because, oh, well, you're like my wife, you're like, you know, my main chick, but you can't, like, satisfy me fully, so I need, like, to go out with all these whores, but don't worry, they mean nothing to me, and I kind of hate them, and they're gross, and women shouldn't be promiscuous, but I want to sleep around with promiscuous women anyway, but you're like Satany and pure, but you can't satisfy me. So I talked about the Madonna whore concept a lot in my video on why mummy's boys become villains, talking mainly about Diddy and his frankly bizarre relationship with his mother, and how that may, or may not, but may have something to do with how his sexuality developed and his views towards women, which would make sense because the mother is like, if you have issues with women, it's really likely gonna stem from your mother, isn't it? And when you see how him and his mother behave together, it's bizarre. Yeah, I mean, there are several theories for why the Madonna whore complex kind of develops. One of the most popular theories for this is that your mother, either overtly or covertly, has an emotionally incestuous, or in worst cases, perhaps just flat out incestuous, relationship with her son. So it's where she becomes too entangled with him, it's too weird, she treats him more like a pseudo-partner than a son. It's also really connected to like the toxic mother-in-law trope sometimes, where she gets jealous of like a son's partner because she kind of sees herself in a weird way psychologically as his partner rather than his mother, and it's all very unhealthy and entangled and doesn't help their views on women at all. So in effect, what is theorised happens is that these boys naturally grow into men with a very weird idea of romantic relationships. So any woman who gets too close to them emotionally and starts treating them like a partner starts to remind them of their mother, because that's how she treated them. And so they shut down sexually because it's like icky because of how their mother was with them. And because their mother had an inappropriate and controlling relationship with them, they might well get into a healthy relationship with a woman, but, you know, because his mother crossed boundaries, it might remind him of the mother-son dynamic. Or he kind of might start thinking that she's trying to control him or, like, grasp onto him, like his mother did, even though his partner might not be. She's just trying to be intimate and close to him, but it kind of creates intimacy issues and all kinds of that. So yeah, as you can imagine, this is a turn-off. And also probably leads to him thinking that sexuality is something shameful and dirty and a bit icky, because his mum didn't have appropriate boundaries. So this, as the theory goes, creates like a bit of a tear in the psyche, an internal war. Humans are sexual beings, so he'll probably still have sexual impulses and want to act on them. But those impulses feel a bit icky and wrong, especially in the context of a partnership. And if you love a woman, then, oh no, you can't possibly carry out things like that with her. She's an angel. She's pure. You can't degrade her like that. And anyway, now she's your wife. So she's kind of stepped into the maternal role. And honestly, it's gross. Wives are for doing laundry, not for fucking. These whores over here, on the other hand, you don't know them. There's no emotional connection to make it icky. And because it's all a bit shameful anyway, it's better. It's better that, you know, they kind of deserve that. They're a bit shameful, so it's all a bit, you know. So that's kind of one of the theories. The other one is that this Madonna whore complex can also happen if your mother is a bit cold or distant or like mean, narcissistic or abusive. That could also potentially create it. A weird kind of complex with women. So there was a video delving into this by Dr. Ken Adams. I referenced it a lot in my video on Mummy's Boys. He counsels men dealing with relationship issues in adulthood caused by covertly incestuous or smothering mothers when they were kids. And it's a fantastic video, and like I said, I reference a lot on my video on the diddler. So Dr. Ken Adams gave several case studies of this, talking about kind of the men he deals with and what kind of problems they see arising from an entanglement relationship with their mother. And one case study he gave was that he sees quite a lot is that acting out sexually is a very compulsive thing of these guys. Like, it's so common that a lot of these guys who've been through that, they start compulsively acting out sexually. And he kind of theorizes it's like they're stating their own autonomy from their wife/mother. So it's like, you can't control me, so they sexually act out compulsively. So, I mean, he even gives a case study of one guy, every time he stayed with his mother, apparently half the week he'd live with his mother, I think, half the week he'd live at home. And when he was at home, he was fine, no issues. But whenever he went to stay with his mother, he would compulsively, obsessively watch porn or see sex workers and be like compulsively, kind of not able to do it. And he didn't have that problem when he wasn't with her. So the kind of theory was that subconsciously he was rebelling against the idea that his mum had sexual ownership over him. It was like an attempt to reclaim his autonomy from her. Of course, so when you're confusing your wife for your mother, as a lot of these guys who've grown up with a weird partnership thing with their mother will do, if you're confusing your wife for your mother and you don't want her then to have sexual exclusivity with you, because that feels like ownership. That feels like, you're like, it automatically makes you kind of rebel against that, like it did with your mum, which kind of create the Madonna whore thing, where if you love and respect a woman and you're intimate with her emotionally, it's like sexually, it's like, no, you don't, I'm gonna act those out. Like rebelling against that kind of control. So it's a bigger problem, that obviously Madonna whore thing, it's a bigger problem that can fuck up your ability to maintain a relationship with a woman as an adult. Most of them don't like it when you cheat on them. Don't know if you know that. Women, not a big fan of that. Unless you're Pearl. Now, I have no idea about David Harbour's background, and I'm not connecting any of that to him or commenting on any relationship that may or may not exist between him and his mum. I don't know, no idea. I'm just giving some background on the Madonna whore complex, so when it comes up we have a broader understanding. Yeah, so that's separate from David Harbour, not connecting any of that to him. I have no idea about his background. I'm just explaining the Madonna whore because, like I said, I'm going to go on to talk about it, so I'm not commenting on David Harbour or his alleged behaviour, I'm commenting on the partly fictional husband as seen through the eyes of Lily Allen's artistic expression, which is only, as we know, one side of the story. That's only her view of things, her experience of things. Not to say that that's not worth something or, but like we said, that's one perspective. Now I know what you're thinking. Galatea, it seems presumptuous to connect the Madonna whore complex to Lily Allen's partly fictional relationship. Yes, it would. I'd agree, if she hadn't done it herself. So, what have I decoded to lead me to the conclusion that this album is in large part about a woman struggling with being in a relationship with a man who has a pretty destructive Madonna whore complex? Let's start with a line from the song Sleepwalking. Bear with me and let me decipher this, because the Madonna whore reference is pretty vague, but I think I can convince you. I know you've made me your Madonna. I want to be your whore. Not known for her subtlety, is Lily Allen. Now, I could rest my case here, but there's a lot more in this album that references the Madonna whore complex and the pain and difficulty of dealing with a partner who has that type of dysfunction. So when I was first listening to this album, I wasn't really listening, I was like half listening, I was like doing other stuff, and I only heard the I want to be your whore line, and I kind of hated it and thought it was a weird line and kind of degrading to sing to your ex. But re-listening to the whole album and listening like properly, with the Madonna references also taken into account, it makes total sense what she's talking about. I don't think, and this is my interpretation, I don't think that she's talking about wanting to be degraded. She's talking about wanting to be viewed as a whole person by her partner. Not just the narrow wife box where she no longer feels desired. And that's the whole album. It's very sad. It's all about the pain and longing of being with someone who doesn't want you. Need more evidence? That direct reference to the Madonna whore complex was in the song Sleepwalking, that line. But the visualizer for a different song, the song Beg For Me, which is a song about wanting to be wanted by someone uninterested in you, in that song, she's dressed as... Oh, that's right, literally the Madonna. Look at the comparisons here, the references here. So she's dressed as the Madonna blatantly in the song art, and then that's a different song than the song where she had the direct lyrical reference to the Madonna whore complex. So it's an entirely different song, and in this one she's dressed as the Madonna. Meanwhile, as she's dressed as the Madonna, the lyrics are, I want to feel held, I want to be told I'm special and I'm unusual. I want your desire, I want to be spoiled, I want to be told I'm beautiful. Why won't you beg, beg, beg for me? Why won't you beg for me? If you want me to stay, love endlessly. If you want me to stay, I'll never leave you. It's an interesting contradiction between how she's dressed as a saintly, chaste, modern woman versus how she feels, which is wanting to be begged for and desired. How she feels that he sees her, it's the Madonna, versus who she is, a complete being with a very vibrant sexuality there. So all she wants is quite simple, to be wanted and seen, really seen, and seen as more than the empty wife or Madonna archetype. And as we'll go on to hear, she was very happy to play into certain parts of the wife archetype for him to make him happy. But as part of that, she also just wants to be wanted. And it seems like at a certain point, when she became that wife, that he can't do that. Beg for Me is a needy song. It's needy, and I don't mean that as an insult, but as the reality of chasing someone who is detached and avoidant. It's really like, just really simply wanting to be wanted. And it's needy in like a sad way. I say it's so needy because it makes it like sad. It's like she just desperately trying to beg for someone who doesn't want her. And in the lyrics saying, you know, I want to feel held. She wants to feel special and unique, to be told that she's different and all of these things just to him. And she was so willing to let him go so far in indulging his fantasies at her own expense, allowing all these kind of things, the open relationship, everything else. But that still wasn't enough for him, because that's the lesson. You can't break all your own boundaries to keep someone in your life if they don't really want you. It won't work and it won't fix it. So what she's saying over and over again in this song, I want to be held, I want to be told I'm special, I want your desire, told I'm unusual. All of that, it's expressing the same thing. She wants to feel like enough for him, like she's special to him, above other women, wanted above other women, above all others, which is a totally normal thing to want from your husband. And it's really sad hearing her begging for scraps from someone who can't even give that much. She's begging for him to beg for her, to have her energy reciprocated somewhat. So that's someone who thought they were in a sexual relationship that turned into being a placeholder. Never mind romance and passion, now she's getting indifference from her husband. And as she says in the song, if he showed even a bit of longing for her and begged her to stay, she would, despite how he's behaved. So again in Beg For Me, she sings, I feel embarrassed, I feel ashamed, you're so indifferent and that's insane. Where's all your empathy for all my pain? My friends will tell me you are deranged. Yeah, so it seems like he's indifferent and she wants passion and getting indifference. So as well as describing how she no longer feels wanted in Beg For Me, in the rest of the lyrics to Sleepwalking, the other song, she explores that feeling further. And not only does he not seem to want her, but he does seem to want other women, which really is horrible. Not being wanted by your partner is one thing, there might be other stuff going on, but when they don't want you, but are still really sexually interested in other people, dagger to the heart. Anyway, in Sleepwalking, she seems to imply that they stopped being intimate once they were married, which is interesting. As soon as she became a wife, she's no longer sexually interesting to him, which is significant. You've stepped into the role then of the Madonna symbolically as soon as you're married, and become sexually neutered suddenly. You're a wife and mother now, not a girlfriend and a lover, and the two seem to be kept somewhat separate within the relationship Lily describes. So this is Sleepwalking. You won't love me, you won't leave me, you don't touch me, still so needy, and I don't know if you do it intentionally, somehow you make it my fault. You don't stop talking, and I'm just sleepwalking. Course I'm angry, course I'm hurt, looking back it's so absurd, course I trusted you and took you at your word. Who said romance isn't dead? Been no romance since we wed. Why aren't we fucking, baby? Yeah, that's what you said, but you let me think it was me in my head and nothing to do with them girls on your bed. I know you've made me your Madonna. I want to be your whore. Baby, it would be my honour. Please, sir, can I have some more? I could preserve all of your fantasies if only you could act them all out with me. So this is a really sad song, to be honest. You can hear the longing and neediness here. It's a song about a woman who wants to be viewed sexually by her partner, desperately wants to be wanted by him, and doesn't understand why even though she's willing and wants to be sexually adventurous with him, he's still more interested in other women. But it's more than being interested in other women, he's no longer interested in her. She married him expecting this sexual relationship between the two of them, and suddenly his interest is gone. And at least from her perspective, and her perspective is the only one we have, she feels it's because he's made her the boring, pure wife. Not because she is or wants to be, but he's put her into that box. That's why she's dressed as the saintly Madonna in the visualizer to Beg For Me, which is a different song. This theme is all over the album, and that line's really significant, I think. Been no romance since we wed. Why aren't we fucking, baby? Yeah, that's what you said, but you let me think it was me in my head and nothing to do with them girls in your bed. And at the beginning of that song again, she sings, you won't love me, you won't leave me, you don't touch me, still so needy. Like, it's sad. It's like she's there, she's willing, at the end she says she'll do anything. I could preserve all your fantasies if only you could act them all out with me. Like, she's willing to be there and, wants to please him, wants to do whatever, and it's still not enough for him because he wants other women, even though she's there like, hey, I'll be sexually adventurous and all of this, which is rough. That's really rough. So we can also see, in the visualizer to Pussy Palace, which is literally her dressed as a nun, this is the same theme, visualizer to Pussy Palace, she's dressed as a nun. Again, she's dressed as a holy woman, in contrast with the Pussy Palace lyrics, which are detailing all the depravity her husband gets up to with other people. It's kind of like she feels forced into a role that's not her or she didn't want. She wanted to be his wife and do nice things for him, but not become untouchable. Not become this untouchable nun. Like, she feels like a nun. It's kind of, not by her own choice, because she's been forced into this role. So, like I said, in the visualizer, she's dressed as a nun, but then the camera zooms out slowly to reveal that she's dressed as a nun, but she has a cigarette in her hand. It zooms out further, we see that she's wearing fishnet tights and got black heels on. And at the last moment of the visualizer, as it zooms out, she kind of lifts the heels at the last moment to reveal the red soles on her shoes. Which to me, it's kind of like reveals that not only is she, red soles, wanting luxury, that kind of element, but also that she's kind of secretly a slut, secretly a scarlet woman. I don't mean that in a bad way, but that secretly, even though she's dressed as a nun, it's like, hang on, I've got the fishnets, I've got the red soles on these black heels. This is who I actually am. I want to be desired and seen as a sexy, sexual creature, a sexy woman, and you've put me in habit, a nun's habit. She wants the fishnets and the adventure, but has been forced into this nun's habit, and she kind of looks pissed off about it. Like, she's not genuinely a holy woman is the point. Like, she's ironically dressed as a nun. And the lyrics of Pussy Palace go, again in contrast with the nun outfit, don't come home, I don't want you in my bed, go to the apartment in the West Village instead. I'll drop off your clothes, your mail and medication, I'm already on my way, headed to the station. Up to the first floor, key in the front door, nothing's ever going to be the same anymore. And that's when I realised something don't feel right. I didn't know it was your Pussy Palace, Pussy Palace, Pussy Palace, Pussy Palace. I always thought it was a dojo, dojo, dojo. So am I looking at a sex addict, sex addict, sex addict, sex addict? Talk about a low blow, oh no. I found a shoebox full of handwritten letters from broken-hearted women wishing you could have been better. Sheets pulled off the bed, strewn all on the floor, long black hair probably from the night before. Dwayne Reed bag with the handles tied, sex toys, butt plugs, lube inside. Hundreds of Trojans, you're so fucking broken. How'd I get caught up in your double life? So apparently dojo here refers to like a martial arts zen place, like a place of zen or reflection or something, which people have speculated, I heard, because, and I think works, because apparently David Harbour, who allegedly this song's about, is into that, is into martial arts. So that would make sense. I also like the theory that it's a reference to Ken's Mojo Dojo Casa House from Barbie. But regardless, the point is that she's making is that she thought of this place as his bachelor pad of solitude and reflection and kind of spiritual looking inwards and growing and that kind of thing. That's what she thought of his apartment as, post kicking him out, only to find that it's a shag pad. A pussy palace, rather than a dojo. That's rough. So yeah, while she's at home playing the well-behaved wife, he's apparently compulsively and consistently sexually acting out beyond what even she thought. That part of him was hidden to her, because she's the Madonna, and separate. He's got a double life, she even says. How did I get caught up in your double life? There's a double life, a split between Madonna and whore. His public-facing, family-friendly life, and then the dark underbelly. Outward-facing and the inward-facing. He himself is split between persona and his dark inward desires. He's not whole, not integrated. Therefore, his women are not whole. They have to be kind of split up. It sounds like he becomes different people with different women. The sexually uninterested husband versus the compulsive sex addict, as she calls him. That's why the women are split into archetypes. It all starts with him, because he's a split persona and can't seem to mesh those two things together. He can't seem to integrate the loving husband with sexual husband. It can't seem to be the same person. That's like a different area in what she's kind of implying. It sounds like it has to be different things. It sounds like he has the home, the nice family-friendly home, and, you know, with the kids and the wife. And then he's got a shag pad where he gets out to all kinds, and ne'er the two shall meet, is the impression that this gives. A double life. That could also, of course, be another interpretation of the visualizer where Lily Allen is dressed as a nun on the outside and it zooms out to reveal the fishnets and the red-soled high-heeled shoes and the cigarette. That could also be a reference to him, that like on the outside he presents this really wholesome image, and then the reality of it, or the double life of it, is that in secret there's this kind of sordid sexuality going on. That could be another interpretation of, you know, the outfit that she's wearing. Could be in reference to him as well as, you know, her, or how he's made her feel. And, you know, as I'm saying, or everything I'm commenting on, talking about him, I'm commenting on the partly fictional man described in this album. I'm not talking about the reality because we don't know objectively what that's like. The truth may well be more muddled and complicated and different, and from his side of the story, perhaps, of course, but we only have this album to go off. So from this album's partly fictional perspective, you know, that's what I'm saying. And you know, she says in 4chan Stan, one of the lyrics is, which is a hilarious thing to write about your ex-husband and title it 4chan Stan. Wow. I think it expresses her contempt of him at this point. But one of the lines in that song is, quote, "You love all the power, but you're not even cute." Kind of implying it's a power thing. You know, power over women, sleeping around with lots of them, to make himself feel good about himself and to feel powerful. And maybe, again, that goes back to the Madonna whore thing. Power over women because of issues with the feminine, or maybe even with his mother, who knows? Which that's often how the Madonna whore thing is described, as a way to kind of regain power back when you feel that you've been choked by femininity or by motherhood or whatever it happens to be. It's like a kind of way to try and regain power and stuff, but yeah, and feel powerful. Because you don't feel powerful, you feel trapped or whatever it is within a relationship. So anyway, yeah, the man she's describing sounds sexually dysfunctional and like he uses sex as escapism for his problems. Your wife kicks you out for cheating on her, and your immediate response is to delve even deeper into being sexually compulsive and sleeping around and buy hundreds of condoms. I'm not talking a one-night stand. Like, I could understand someone with a marriage breaking down having a one-night stand. I don't think that's a good idea, and you should not do that, especially if you want any hope of resolution. But I wouldn't say that would make them sexually dysfunctional. That might just be a stupid decision from a bad emotional state. But the level of what she's describing, and when he's been kicked out for cheating, this sounds like a coping mechanism rather than a one-time acting out. An addiction is what it sounds like. I mean, that's crazy for your marriage to be going up in smoke, partly due to you showing no sexual interest in your partner, and meanwhile, you're inviting loads of people over for sex and not trying to either resolve or peacefully end things. I think if most people discovered that about their partner, they would also think that they were a mess and pretty broken. And it is sad at his age. It's really, really quite pathetic to have so little self-control at his big age. I mean, quote, "What a sad, sad man, it's giving 4chan Stan," is something I may also have written about my partner, is if this is how they were behaving at that age particularly. So now on to the song Tennis, where we get the same Madonna whore theme. And tennis, if you didn't know, is a metaphor. Can we guess what for, children? Daddy's home for the first time in weeks. Got the dinner on the table, tell the kids it's time to eat. And I made my baby's favourite, but he didn't seem to care. I just tell myself he's jet-lagged, and I'm glad to have him here. Then you showed me a photo on Instagram. It was how you grabbed your phone back right out of my hands. So I read your texts, and now I regret it. I can't get my head round how you've been playing tennis. If it was just sex, I wouldn't be jealous. You won't play with me. And who the fuck is Madeline? There are so many allusions in this album to the fact that he is not sleeping with her and hasn't been since they were married. He won't play tennis with her now that she's his wife. So in terms of tennis, I was like, the first thing I thought of, because I know people said, why tennis, like as a metaphor for the devil's tango, I don't know, whatever. Why tennis is that metaphor? The first thing I thought of was, I remember there's that film with Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis from like a few years ago. And is it called Friends? It might just be called Friends with Benefits. It's either that or No Strings Attached. They're like the same film. But the one with Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis, that I remember the scene. I haven't seen the film in years, but that stuck in my mind. There's a scene with them. They're friends and they're talking about like maybe they should, you know, be friends with benefits. And he's like, oh, it's just like playing tennis. He's like, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a physical activity. It's just you need to do a physical activity, like playing tennis. Why don't we just sometimes play tennis? And I remember in that film, tennis was that metaphor for sex. And I don't know if that's what she's referencing, but and I don't know if that's what she's referencing. That was just the first thing I thought of. But either way, it's clear what she's talking about, what tennis means. So, yeah. I mean, again, she's singing about, seems like she's trying to play the perfect wife. She's got dinner on table, he's home for the first time in ages. Yeah. And then say she can't get her head around how he's playing tennis. If it was just sex, I wouldn't regret it. You won't play with me. And who the fuck is Madeline? You could argue it seems like the woman on the other side of this is more than like a whore, quote unquote, because it seems she's worried about he's formed an emotional connection with her, perhaps. Now, I will say I don't know if the partly fictional marriage that Lily is describing fits into the Madonna whore archetype perfectly. I mean, partly it doesn't matter because we're talking about her interpretation of it in this piece of artwork, the album. I would say as well, it sounds like that he may have developed feelings for the mistress, but question being, would he have lost sexual interest in her had they gotten too close and she was no longer the exciting, dirty little secret, aka whore? So while it may seem he has emotions to her now, like indeed he did with Lily Allen before they got married in this fictional world, and then he lost interest after, even though he seemed to care about her, it doesn't necessarily mean because there's some attachment that it's not a kind of Madonna whore thing going on, because, I mean, if the mistress became the Madonna, if she's no longer the exciting, dirty little secret, the exciting, shameful kind of whore, if she became the Madonna, the wife, she'd probably have met the same fate as Lily, I would argue. And it seems like that from other compulsive behaviours that she's talked about in the album. The Pussy Palace, the hundreds of Trojans, the compulsively acting out. This seems to be not a factor of who he's married to and been unhappy in his marriage. It seems to be a factor of his personality, and that it is just a dysfunction, I would say.
Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy, hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand. We must not look at goblin men, we must not buy their fruits. Who knows upon what soil they fed their hungry, thirsty roots? Morning and evening maids heard the goblins cry, come buy our orchard fruits, come buy, taste them and try. Currants and gooseberries, bright fire like barberries, figs to fill your mouth, citrons from the south, sweet to tongue and sound to eye. Come buy, come buy. Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy, hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand.
Now you know me. I love a good archetype. I think they're useful in understanding aspects of ourselves. But as I've said in the past, there's a danger in over-identifying with one to the detriment of others. You limit yourself or other people and try and squeeze them into forms they don't fit. So as her husband is out playing tennis with Madeline, meanwhile Lily is at home and seems to have transformed into a 1950s neglected housewife, cooking his favourite meals when he gets home from a long business trip. And he ignores her. I was really surprised, actually, when she was talking about cooking meals in their Architectural Digest tour. Not because she's cooking, but because she said it like she was the only one cooking, and like it was kind of her kitchen, and like she kind of had this whole domestic goddess thing going on. Which is fine, there's no problem with that. I wasn't surprised at that because it's a bad thing. Like, if a woman wants to take on more of the domestic chores and she wants to do that, there's no issue with that at all. Not because it's bad, but I was surprised because it clashes with everything you think you know about Lily Allen, which for me is maybe just a bit of a red flag because it may show how much she tried to change herself to make him happy, to force into that image of the perfect wife, of the Madonna. Because he wanted that. Don't get me wrong, it's not like she did that to herself and then he was no longer sexually interested. It sounded like he wanted that. She tried to be that for him, and at the same time in being that, he's like, yeah, but you're there and in this box as a Madonna, and I want to go and sleep with all these more thrilling, exciting people over here, but you can just be there in the wife box. And it sounds like she has been playing a picture perfect wife, making his favourite meals, playing the perfect mummy, which may be significant. One of the lines in the song Relapse is, I tried to be your modern wife, but the child in me protests. She's trying to be that for him. That could be referencing, her becoming kind of a domestic goddess on the surface, or it could also be referencing the open marriage, and that she tried to be modern like that in the modern wife, but the kind of abandoned child in her, who had abandonment issues with her father, which she's openly spoken about, maybe didn't sit well with that. They could refer to either or both of those things, is what I think. Trying to be the perfect wife and also the modern wife at the same time, and hurting herself and her own like kind of childhood wounds in the process, and neglecting that childhood part of her that just wants to be loved and exclusively loved, which is no problem. You're allowed to want monogamy. That's okay. But yeah, she's trying to be the perfect wife here, even letting him sleep around while she's at home playing mummy. You know, and how does that end? I think constantly letting go of your own boundaries, even kind of being like, I'll do anything for you sexually and even let you open the marriage. Even if you could deal with the heartbreak and the making of personal compromises, I think in most cases it's still not enough for someone who... It's still not enough and will never get... If you're dealing with someone who's not caring about you and you think you're going to do all these things to finally make them care, to finally... You're going to keep crossing your boundaries, you're going to keep giving them more and more and more, so that you hope one day they will turn around and be considerate of you. If I just do enough for him, if I just do this for him or her, you know, it could go either way. They will finally give me respect. They will finally want me or love me the way I love them. And it doesn't work like that. If you give someone like that more and more, and I'm not talking someone healthy, you know, and who's kind to you more and more in a relationship, that's fine. But when you're crossing your own boundaries and you're making yourself unhappy, and you know they know that you're been made unhappy, and they're okay with that for their own selfish ends, you will never be able to love someone like that enough into making them care about you and treat you with consideration. It will not work. They will just take more and more and more and more, and they'll be ungrateful for all of it. Setting down boundaries in that case is the best thing. That would probably make them care about you more than not doing that. But I still think you shouldn't, you know, if you're in a relationship with someone like that who's so deeply selfish and dysfunctional, I think the best thing, the healthiest thing is probably to get out of that relationship, because you can't fix them. See, I think this is true even with like good men or good people in general. I think even good people could sometimes unconsciously take advantage of someone if they're thinking all the time like, oh, they don't mind, they're fine, they don't mind. I think that's why standing your ground and saying, no, I will not put up with this is important. Compromise in relationships is good, of course, but when you're being treated badly by someone who is not giving you enough, or rather giving you, quote, just enough to keep you hanging on, as Lily Allen describes in her song Just Enough, at that point, it's not a good idea to say, you know, I'll let you give me even less while I give you more, just so you'll stay around. It's headed to disaster, I think, that. Not that you should go too far the other way and be selfish, but, you know, it's a balance. And don't try and give all of yourself to someone who is completely not reciprocating at all, and you're emotionally, like, harming yourself being in a relationship all the time. That's not how it should be. And it does sound really painful. Like, it sounds like she's doing everything to feel like enough, but he still doesn't want her. And women who aren't doing anything, or that he actively despises, are getting that type of attention from him. So it's like she's doing everything and being ignored and neglected at home. I think that's what, yeah, with those people, it's like you can't win. And it seems like, you know, she feels invisible and covered up, forced into this role that isn't her, to try and make him see her, or at least see that image, to try and be noticed by him and get his attention. But he's still not even interested in that image. He just wants the image to be there, and then, well, he can go and be selfish. I think, and you know, she looks cynical and dead in like all of the visualizers for this album. Kind of emotionless and expressionless, or bored, or numb at most. Yeah, seems like she almost got not even any emotion left to spend it on. She seems so exhausted and cynical about it all, which makes sense after listening to the album. It sounds a little bit like he created a box for her, the mother, wife, Madonna box, and she got into it hoping it would make him happy and make him love her more. But it didn't, it just enabled her to be packed away, tidily. Which is what happens when you make accommodations for selfish people. They care about you less, not more. It's all smoke and mirrors. And the pretense of living the dream, including, you know, the brownstone, the fancy house in New York, and the fancy kitchen, and the picture-perfect life, like she sings about in West End Girl. She wanted and went for that dream, that fantasy, but was miserable. Her husband wanted a Madonna fantasy and put her there, but it wasn't reality. It doesn't sound like there was much real there in the relationship as a foundation. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that it wasn't real for them and there wasn't, you know, I'm not saying it doesn't mean it wasn't hugely painful. But it seems like a lot of the stuff that she thought was there at the beginning or wasn't ever really there or really real, and it was all about an illusion more than anything else, is what I read from this album. And from his perspective, you know, it sounds like he wanted the image of a happy wife and a perfect home that he could show off on Architectural Digest, perhaps, but doesn't actually want to commit to his wife. It sounds like intimacy issues. Even in a marriage, he immediately has to emotionally and physically disconnect and step out the door. and see other people and create space and distance between them. That sounds like intimacy issues. You're married, you're with, and it's like, oh, and I only immediately have to create space from you, which is why the Madonna Hall thing kind of makes sense. But like I have never heard a marriage sound so much like a situationship, where there's this woman feeling upset and used and trying to get commitment out of a guy who clearly isn't interested. But they're married. There shouldn't be a problem. If you're struggling to get commitment out of your own husband, then it's not a marriage. If you're struggling to get your own husband to commit to you, then the marriage is over. It's not, or it never was to begin with. That's not, that you're in a situationship. You just happen to be married. That's what it sounds like. It sounds tragic, like really rough. But it also sounds shit because it sounds like it wasn't like that at the beginning. But talking about situationships, I mean, in the song Non-Monogamy, so she sings, I don't want to fuck with anyone else. I know that's all you want to do. I'm so committed that I'd lose myself because I don't want to lose you. I changed my immigration status for you to treat me like a stranger. Why do I feel like such a failure? A life with you looked good on paper. I've been trying to be open. I just want to meet your needs. And for some reason, I revert to people pleasing. I'll be your non-monogamy. I'm just trying to be open. We fell in love. I landed on my feet. I was the cat that got the cream. We built a palace on the perfect street. You really sold me on a dream. Again, smoke and mirrors, illusions, good on paper. There doesn't sound like a whole lot of substance there. It sounds like shattered illusions and dreams more than anything else. And again, like a situationship, like, which sucks to be your reality when with your husband, with your own husband. And I think it's interesting here, again, she's using mothering language towards him. She'll be his non-monogamy, be both a mother and let him sleep around with others. She is sort of, in this album, how I'm reading it, it sounds like she is sort of treating him like a child, like what a mother will do, sacrificing their own needs to keep their children happy. She doesn't want to fuck with anyone else, she says. She doesn't want to do that. But he does. That's all he wants to do. So she gives that part of herself up to meet his needs, which feeds even more into this archetypal mummy Madonna role that he's put her in. She's not the passionate lover now. She's the over-accommodating wife. It's not a partnership. This is not an equal partnership. This is sounds like one party mothering the other and giving up everything and being a mother and sacrificing themselves and to put someone else first. And then the other person's not doing that because sounds like they've gone into a bit of a child role, a bit of a, they're doing whatever the hell they want. It's not a partnership. What humans all want is connection and to matter. I think that's fundamentally true about most people. Even status-obsessed ones, shallow ones, materialistic ones. Why do they strive for that? To impress other people. Why would they want to impress other people? Probably to gain a respect or security or feeling of self-worth from others looking at them and thinking they matter. They want to be seen and known. Lily even sings that about him, that everything he does is from attachment issues and searching for validation and attention. You're just a little boy looking for his mummy. Things have gotten complicated, what with all the fame and money. Playing with his toys, he just wants attention. He can't really do attachment, scared he's going to be abandoned. And finally I see, it's not me, it's you. It's what you've always done, it's what you do. Forever till you die, it's true. That's from the song Fruity Loop. So I do want to talk about this immaturity for a little bit. I think this is also partly why I get so irritated with elements of the red pill that overemphasize, not just the red pill, also women like the Wizard Liz, and kind of female dating like gurus on the other side of it too, that overemphasize shallow status symbols over meaning, telling men that that's how they will find fulfillment in life. Or women. Firstly, there's nothing wrong with getting to the gym and getting your money up or becoming successful. But when they talk about it like the cost of the car you drive or how many women you're sleeping with as a mark of masculinity, it's so fucking pathetic. Like, genuinely, it really is. I'm sorry. Like, grow up. It's immature. It's more excusable in your 20s. But when you're getting older than that, especially like your 50s or whatever, 40s and 50s especially, even 30s, it looks more and more like what it is. Dysfunction. The same lost little boy trying to get the newest, coolest trainers or sneakers to impress his peers. How Lily is describing her unfaithful husband makes him sound really fucked up and like a little kid. She calls him a little boy looking for his mummy, and it does seem like he's treating her like a mother. Not only is he not sleeping with her, but he's trying to not get into trouble with her, seeing inappropriate girls behind her back, like hiding bags of sex toys in his room, which has the same vibe as hiding dirty magazines from his mum and like secretly wanking in his room like a teenager. And he's undisciplined and totally selfish, using dysfunction to deal with stuff he refuses to deal with. But on the surface, he has the wife to look like he's grown up and has his life together. Wounded little boy? Yeah, I think so. It sounds like it, at least from this perspective. I think it's just this attempt that some people do to rebrand underdeveloped masculinity, or like wounded little boy syndrome, whatever, as like high value and manly, that is just the most obvious cope. It's this attitude that if you only care about yourself, that will make you a man and make you unable to be taken advantage of by anyone and make you strong. That's a trauma response, not adulthood. I mean, again, David Harbour on the surface is a successful, high-status guy who allegedly treated his wife like shit and did whatever he wanted with whomever he wanted. But rather than being impressive, the reality of it is just sad and seedy. To like have achieved all that and be high status and have that just be that sad and uncontrolled and messy in your personal life and dysfunctional. Like 4chan Stan was an accurate description to how it all looks. She's the mummy who takes care of the home, while he can run around and misbehave and be irresponsible. And again, it sounds like, you know, she's covering and excusing all his bad behaviour, or has been up until a certain point, which is why the lyrics of the song Let You Win are quite powerful, because in that song she says she's not going to do that anymore. She says she's not covering for him. Why should she cover for him? Why should she hide what he did? She's stepping out of the mother role in that song and saying she's going to just tell everyone what he did, and just, you know, it's not her job to mother him, to cover for him, to make excuses for him, to make it all better and all go away, protect him. He's not her little boy. Back to the lyrics of Non-Monogamy, you have one person who's needy and anxious and maybe a little codependent. Lily Allen has described herself that way. And the other is wanting to go off and do his own thing, but have someone at home who's still going to stick around and be yearning for him and thinking about him while he's not thinking about her. It's selfish using someone like that. And again, it's back to like a life with you looked good on paper stuff. They had the dream life and were both clearly deeply miserable and dysfunctional in different ways. It's also why, like I've said so many times in the past, people should be wary of taking shallow dating advice online. People like the Wizard Liz or some manosphere gurus who emphasise superficial things over relationship skills, character traits, or just good old-fashioned falling in love. It is possible to be so deeply miserable while having a life that looks like a dream on the outside. Like Lily sings in Let You Win, I've become invisible, stuck here in my palace. I'm so fucking miserable. She's stuck, ignored, and unfulfilled. Because all anyone wants, really, is connection. With the exception of psychopaths, but apparently even they can go, like, crazy in solitary confinement, so even they need human contact. It's a fundamental part of being human. We all need connection, and to feel seen, to survive. To not go crazy. And people who don't have that do go crazy. Everybody wants that. Everyone wants to be wanted, to be needed, to belong, to be loved, to have connection, to not feel unseen, ignored. Money and wealth and status and all the power games and the fame, and it's not enough to make up for that. And you can have that, all that, and be deeply miserable and unhappy, which is why shallow dating advice, it might make you rich, maybe. I mean, still unlikely, but it's also not the most fulfilling way to think about your life. Sometimes the manosphere will talk, again, I hear this about kind of like the honour of being the trophy, like the trophy wife for a successful man, and how it's still an honour even if he has other girls, and that women will be happy with this so long as he's rich and she's the main chick and he provides for her, and it's like an honour bestowed on her, and, you know, she'll be happy with that and blah, blah, blah. I think Lily Allen is an example of that not working. No one wants to be a trophy, not really, even if they think that they do. We all want to matter. We all want to matter to someone, even if we're going about it in the worst way possible. We all want to be seen as we are. And being neglected, but filling that kind of hole with a fancy brownstone house, is not enough. She wanted to matter so much, she was willing to try and be whoever he wanted her to be, and it still wasn't enough. Because he has issues. No one would ever have been enough. Her whole album is lonely. It's desperately lonely. Being prescribed a role and being unable to break out of that, not being seen as any more than that by the person who's supposed to know and love us, feels so lonely. If you're not seen by them, are you seen by anyone? And money doesn't bring safety. You can hear it in her whole album. This is why, again, I have a problem with people like Pearl, whatever. I have many reasons I have a problem with people like Pearl. But people who kind of argue that they think that having a man in the house or having him providing money will make a woman feel safe, and that should be enough, even if he's sleeping around and going off and doing... Like, no, it doesn't. That's just... It doesn't. This whole album by Lily, she feels unanchored and unsafe, unknown and abandoned. One might conclude she's reliving the same cycle of feeling emotionally abandoned by her father, as she's quite openly spoken about. She does even say in this very album, one of the lyrics is, quote, I'm just a little girl looking for a daddy. Everyone wants emotional safety as well. That's really important for human beings. I always liked how in the movie Avatar, the one with the blue people, not the other one, their version of saying I love you is I see you. And I always liked that. It might be kind of cheesy, but I liked that because I think there's a truth there. I love you might as well mean I see you. Really you. Which is why limerence or lust or obsession isn't love, because that's a projection of desires. It's something else. It's wanted for yourself, or you're projecting things onto them. But I see you is different. It's not about any outside projections or you being who I want you to be. It's I see you. Truly as you are. Really seeing and knowing someone. And that's the problem with the Madonna whore complex. You're not fully known. You're never fully known. Who you are is ignored in order to fulfill someone else's fantasy. You can only force yourself into someone else's idea of you for so long until all kinds of resentment builds up. Even if you're put on a pedestal as a Madonna, as the beloved, pure and perfect wife, if that's not who you are, and by the way, no woman is totally that, then you will feel unseen and thus unloved. And, most relevantly to this discussion, unwanted. Undesired. They're seeing the archetype and not the woman. It reminds me of that scene in High Society where one of the characters says to Grace Kelly's character, he's talking to her and he says, "There's a beautiful purity about you, like a statue to be worshipped." And her response? "But I don't want to be worshipped. I want to be loved." You can't marry a woman, mentally file her away as wife, and then spend all your sexual energy on other women and think that she'll be happy with that. They'll always feel lacking and torn up and not enough. Even if you're not seeing her as a sexual creature anymore, it doesn't mean that she isn't one. To end the video, I wanted to read an example of a Madonna whore dynamic that I found on Reddit, just because it's a really clearly laid out and such an obvious case of it, and kind of crazy to read. And it just kind of explores this concept a bit more and gives a bit more like clarity to it, of how much it sucks. I think my 35 female husband, 31 male, has a Madonna complex. How do we overcome it? Couple of 5 years, married for 3, and have a 1-year-old son. Short history. In the dating phase of our relationship, sex with my husband was amazing, but as soon as we entered a committed relationship, it died down, which I guess is normal, but I had the feeling the moment he started loving me and seeing me as his woman, he lost some sexual attraction towards me. He is a very misogynistic person. Promiscuous women to him are worthless and objectified. One of the most important things when we met to him was that I had a low body count, never had a one-night stand, and so on. I had my doubts in the relationship back then, but he made me feel special, loved, and treated me better than any man ever had before, so I let it slide. Unfortunately, after our marriage, our sex life felt forced, like he only did it so I don't complain. I send him suggestive pictures or messages when we were away from each other, and he barely even reacted. I always initiated. I'm conventionally attractive and not overweight or have any other features that might turn him off majorly physically. When I got pregnant, he ended up cheating on me. My world was crushed. I thought he had a low sex drive, but I guess that's only towards me. It was the most painful thing I ever had to experience, and I still have nightmares haunting me. I looked up the woman, and she looked like the type of woman he despises. He felt terrible and has been overly nice to me since, probably to handle his guilt. I forgave him. I didn't want our child to grow up without a father, but the pain I experienced from the person I trusted more than anyone betraying me like this never really went away. In that time, I tried to find reasons, and I read about the Madonna complex, and it sounds exactly like him. I read how these men don't feel sexual attraction to the women they love, and the other way around, and how it's very common in misogynistic men. I talked to him about it. He said I read too much online. Now that our son is born, we barely ever have sex, and if we do, it's only missionary to get it over with. I can't even give him head, because he will say that I kiss our child with that mouth. He is a wonderful husband in all other aspects, doubt. However, I have found myself craving to be desired more and more. I'm back at work and my co-worker keeps making advances towards me. It feels good to be wanted again. I developed a bit of a crush on that co-worker and I'm ashamed to admit that I even debated cheating. The more I thought about it, the more I realised I don't want to inflict the pain my husband caused me on him. I do love him. I want to fix my marriage, but I'm not sure how to make him desire me again and not just see me as mother of his child, but also his lover. He doesn't believe in therapy and he dismissed my concerns. Should I come clean about him and tell him about my co-worker and my feelings about that? I'm afraid he might take it very badly. I'm also afraid this can't be fixed and my marriage is doomed. TLDR, my husband shows no sexual attraction to me, but to other women. He's otherwise very loving, but it's pushing me away from him and ruining our marriage. I want to work on our marriage, but I don't know how I can get him to change or if that's even possible. My advice, cheat on him. Do it. Honestly, cheat on him. I never say that, and I'm against infidelity, but he did it first, and honestly, at least then he would see you as a sexual being. He would hate you and think you're a whore, but then that makes you the kind of woman that he'd fuck. No, okay, I'm kidding. I don't actually think you should do that. What I think you should do is leave him. You don't actually have to choose between being cared for and wanted. You don't have to decide if being despised and degraded is worth feeling desired. You don't have to trade in your sexuality in order to be loved. You can find a man who's not a dysfunctional mess. He's sleeping with other women, but not you, and making you feel bad and dirty about it because you have sexual desires for your own husband. There are so many things in here that are so significant. One of the most significant things, he doesn't even want head from her because she, quote, kisses their child with that mouth. That's a serious mother complex. She can be a separate being from her children. She can. Like, it seems like he doesn't think she can. She can. Just brush your teeth. I mean, first of all. But, come on, he has serious issues he needs to figure out because that is actually unhinged. It's also significant that he cheated on her when she got pregnant. So as soon as she starts to become a mother. So, their sex life died down when they got in a committed relationship. Then she gets pregnant and he cheats on her. Then they have a kid. And she wants to pleasure him, and he says, no, you kiss our child with that mouth. The motherhood is so linked to this, and the committed relationship is so linked to this. It seems like he cannot see a mother as sexual in any way, even when it's not his mother. What did this man's mother do to him? Because he needs therapy, my God. And it's sad, whatever caused that in him, but he's not dealing with it, and it's not your problem, and it doesn't mean that you have to put up with suffering, especially when you've tried to fix it. I wouldn't necessarily say, with cheating, I'd just say, like, walk out, but you know, I understand things can be fixed, yes. With a problem like that, I wouldn't necessarily say, like, oh, you have to leave immediately. But you've tried talking to him about it and stuff. At that point, like, babe, I think it's over. If he's not willing to fix it, and also he cheated as well, you know. And he cheated. He felt bad about it. Hang on. So let me get to it. He cheated. Said he felt bad about it. We're gonna make it up to you. You had problems before that because he wasn't sleeping with you. He cheated on you. You were really upset. He was like, oh, I'm gonna make it up to you. You said, oh, he felt so guilty about it. But the problem's not fixed. He's still, you still don't have a physical relationship. He's still not desiring you. He's not showing you that he wants you in that way. He's not giving you what, he knows you want and need in a relationship. So, which is fine, but, he's not willing to change. Because even that, something that dramatic, and that hurt you so bad. The reason this is so harmful, and I think it really is harmful to this woman's, mental health, isn't just because he doesn't want to sleep with her, though, of course, that's going to harm a relationship in the long term and her self-esteem. Of course, I'm not saying, you always have to sleep with your partner and stuff like that. If you're having problems, something else might be going on. You shouldn't force yourself to if you don't want to, but maybe, deal with it, whatever. People can, reject their partner sometimes, of course. I'm not saying that. But long term, if this is going on long term, yeah, it's going to affect your relationship and the partner's self-esteem. Whoever's constantly been rejected, it's obviously going to affect their self-esteem in the relationship. So that's harmful, but that's not even what I'm talking about. I think more importantly than that, what's more harmful, is the implication that she is dirty. She wants to make him feel good, probably because she loves and desires her husband, and he's not just saying no, but saying, you kiss our child with that mouth. So it's not just a no, it's the implication that she's doing something wrong and dirty. It's not just no, it's disgusting, you're disgusting whore, It's the implication that she's filthy for wanting him, or wanting to make him feel good. She's filthy. Because she's made the grave mistake of crossing the archetypes. She's crossed out of the Madonna archetype and strayed too far into whore territory. And he hates whores. Possibly because he desires them and that makes him feel like they have power over him, so he's got to degrade them. But either way, you're a pure mother. You're his wife and you're a pure mother now. So don't be disgusting. He's making her feel like there's something wrong with her natural desires and instincts because she's acting outside of the mother box that he's put her in. He's unable to accept her as a whole person. I also do not believe that is the only time that he has cheated on her, especially if he's still not sleeping with her and also is still a sexual being himself. Sure, buddy. I mean, look, this kind of environment and attitude is going to give you a sexual complex too, as well as him. It's going to make you believe that part of you is dirty and wrong and inappropriate somehow. It's going to mess with your head a bit. It's going to make you feel like you should be sterile now that you're a mother. But he's making her feel like that because he feels like that. Now that she's a wife and a mother, now that he loves her, supposedly, she's above such shameful, dirty things like sex. That's just his own weird sexual issues projected onto women. Because how come he isn't dirty, by the way? How come he's not the dirty, filthy one for cheating with the whores that he hates? Such a weird complex and projection. It's projection onto you, like you've done nothing wrong. He's the gross one. Sex isn't shameful and dirty, but men raised with an emotionally incestuous mother, of course, are going to feel that way. It's like going to feel a little wrong. I also don't think she's wrong with the misogyny angle. This woman who made this post saying that, he's misogynist, that part of it. I don't think that's entirely wrong, because you see this attitude a lot in the manosphere. And not all of it in the sleazy manosphere, the sleazy part of the manosphere. You see the Madonna whore complex a lot, I think. I've said this before. And I think the most obvious example of this, so clear as day to me anyway. So you have the whores, who most of these men claim to despise, the OF girls. They will specifically choose Red Pill podcasts to appear on because that is one of their biggest advertisers. Isn't that interesting? The same men who will watch a show bemoaning the state of modern women and how bad it is that women are promiscuous and how much they hate OnlyFans and how all women should remain untouched virgins until they marry and become demure tradwives. Those same men will subscribe in huge numbers to the same women they claim to despise and want to humiliate. They enjoy seeing them taken down a peg on these shows and humiliated and told they're worthless and all trash and all this, but also enjoy seeing them naked. Are we seeing the whole part of this complex yet? And then, on the other hand, they will also talk about how much they want an innocent woman for a wife, who's feminine and pure, but they're not really demonstrating that that's the kind of women they're attracted to. At all. Because they still watch these Red Pill shows and subscribe to these OF accounts in huge numbers, which is why the women go on there. Even though they're humiliated, they will go on there because they make so much money from these men. So they say they want the Madonna, but they're attracted to who they claim to hate and want to erase from society. They say these women should not exist in society. This is harmful for society. But they're the reason it exists in society, because it would not exist without the audience there. Interesting. If you wanted it gone that much, you wouldn't feed into it and enable it and make it worse, would you? I just think with that kind of thing, it sounds like self-hatred turned outwards. And they'll say that. So they say they want the innocent, pure woman. And they'll also kind of say that she won't satisfy them sexually. Because, being a high-value man, they all seem to be high-value men. I don't know how there are that many high-value men. Being a high-value man, they deserve many side chicks. So they're rebranding sexual dysfunction and an inability to maintain a healthy relationship as being a high-value man. This is some serious cope. Justin Waller is a pretty good example of this. The man is a trembling bag of repressed anger and dysfunction and resentment of women. I made a whole video on him. I think it's a good video. I'm kind of happy with it. He's funny. He's a bag of laughs. Honestly, he's amusing. He does think he's some Christian Grey type figure. That's what I get from him. He's so angry underneath the surface. I think dysfunctional, and serious problems with women. And he also advocates for having a main girl and then 304s on the side that you just fuck. In my video on him, if you're interested, you can see I go through some of the stupid stuff he says. Stuff like, I'm built that way and I can't help it, and how it's just part of who he is, that he's unable to be faithful. He just can't, it's just who he is, man. And boy, oh boy, does it sound like he's just describing dysfunction and repressed trauma and addiction to do with women. But it's a dislike of female sexuality or weirdness about women in general, so they kind of split it into good girls and bad girls. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with anyone, male or female, wanting a partner who hasn't slept around a whole lot. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. There's no problem with that. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you, completely fine to want a partner who has, shares your values and morals and who hasn't slept around a whole lot. You're allowed to want that. But there is a big difference between that and a Madonna whore complex. That, I hope through this video I've explained, they're very different things. I think an underlying misogyny is connected to this complex, an underlying rage at your mother, or at female sexuality in general, and not being able to control it, so it splits off into two distinct archetypes to make it manageable. Mummy issues, I think. It's a weird thing of men who kind of hate female sexuality except to degrade it. It's like where degradation and disrespect are the turn on. Because they kind of hate the whores because they're attracted to them, so they have to degrade and take some power back. It's weird, yeah. And if he loves and respects you, he can't desire you. Because that's a problem. That's a problem in how you deal and interact with women. And I've heard some men in the manosphere talk like that and think that women will like it. And some women do, to be fair, but I think they also are a bit dysfunctional. That most women are gonna like it, that you're a special girl, but all the other girls are whores. They're all whores. And we can use them and treat them badly, but you're the special chosen one. That's not a good thing, that he can treat another person like that as well. You can't have a relationship with a man who hates women and think that it won't come back on you in some way at some point. I'm not talking about individual women. Like, of course, he can like hate an individual woman, not because she's a woman, but just like, I hate that person. But to hate women as a concept or want to degrade, not care, like, you won't remain untouched by that. Same for men. You can't have a relationship with a woman, if you're a man, who hates men and think that it won't touch you in some way. And the whole, like, you're one of the good ones stuff has got to die. You hear it from, and people feeling that when someone says that to them makes them special. Women do it too. I've heard women say that. Like, it's like the only good man, men are trash, but like, I don't think it sounds like how you think that sounds. It's a weird thing to say to your partner. But anyway. So what's the moral of the story? If your husband asks if he can open the relationship to sleep with prostitutes, say no. And then divorce him. So, thank you everyone for watching. I was going to make this video about open relationships maybe, and some things with that, and how people can use them to cross boundaries and treat their partner badly. This kind of became about the Madonna Hall complex. It was going to be a longer video, like talking about both those things. But if people want to hear me talk about the open relationships stuff, I just might. Let me know. Also, if there's any other topics you want to hear me talk about or discuss, comment them down below. I might not do it. I'll only do what I want to talk about. But if you want to hear me talk about something or a topic or whatever it is, and I might not have heard of it, comment down below and maybe I'll do it. And subscribe to the channel. Make sure you say subscribe so you get notified for my next video. And also, if you want to support the channel, feel free to head on over to Patreon. We have an informal book club. I talk about other things over there. Sometimes I read hate comments from videos. We talk about other stuff. Recently on my Patreon I came across an insane article about hating mothers that I found in the research for this video. Doesn't fit in with the theme, but I thought I'd read that over my Patreon. It was like an insane about how like, being a stay-at-home mother isn't feminist, and it was written with such anger towards, it was the most misogynistic thing I've ever, like, one of the most misogynistic things I've ever read coming from a feminist, and how they're stupid and whatever else. So, if you up for things like that, head on over to Patreon, support the channel. And also, if you want to subscribe to the new channel, that will be linked down below. My second channel, be linked down below, be linked here somewhere, be linked somewhere. Galatea's Fairy Fruit. Join us over on there for creative stuff and magical fairyland, you know, come along. Thank you everyone very much for watching. If there was anything in this video that you didn't like or agree with, that was Acis's idea, so please contact him directly with your complaints. I didn't actually have anything to do that, so, you know, it has to just go straight to him, because what can I do? And look after yourselves.